Welcome back, everyone, to BBB Sharing. I'm Evie, Director of Ignite, sparked by BBB. With me today, I have Austyn Walker. She's the intern for Recover Hope. Y'all met Linda Hawkins, of course. She helps Linda out. She's her right-hand man.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Austyn. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's the end of the day, so I'm ready to go.
I'm with you on that.
But we're here to talk about, in this particular podcast, which again is going to be a part 1 to a 2-part series of, what you guys do at Recover Hope. And one of the things that we really wanted to touch base on with you was fair trade. So what is fair trade?
So fair trade actually refers to a broad movement of people and organizations that work to make trade fair by offering an alternative model of doing business. So this could include labeled and unlabeled goods, and the work of alternate trade organizations, fair trade federations, and other networks. It's actually a designation that certain companies or products can receive that guarantees that the producer is maintaining fair wages for themselves and in selling. And by certifying, the producer follows necessary guidelines that are determined by the certifying company, whether that be Fair Trade Federation, Fair Trade International, or any of those companies. And it makes sure that not only is the consumer paying a fair price for goods, but that it's untouched by any sort of forced labor or illegal labor based on the laws of where the producer is located.
Okay, so I don't know if you've heard about this recently, but now that you've explained what fair trade is, have you heard about luxury, really not being or abiding by fair trade?
Yeah, so that is a really common issue that we see, is that these more luxurious items are really being produced in not great situations. And we're seeing that not only are the products not sustainable, but the people that are making it are not being paid nearly enough for the work that they do.
One of the most common ones that I know about recently is I know Dior and Armani are under administration in Italy at the moment, or not specifically those brands, allegedly, but their production of leather or product company in those areas.
Yeah, so I'm actually not super familiar with a lot of what's going on with like the luxury side of things. I know just kind of in passing things that I've learned, but it's definitely something that's on my to-do list to research.
I'm not gonna lie, I get really excited because I'm a Poshmark shopper. So I love when I see like fair trade, Posh party going on. I'm like, yes, perfect, love that. I'm
Best of
a
both
sustainable shopper. I love when I see stuff like that. So what should I buy in fair trade? What are some things that I would buy?
So, I mean, based on just the definition, you can buy pretty much anything. There are fair trade designations for pretty much any type of product. But part of the reason that we ask you to buy fair trade is obviously we want to make sure that we're not supporting exploitation. We want to make sure that we are not supporting any sort of forced labor. Something that I give an example of when I'm explaining it in our trainings is the garment industry. So think T-shirts, pants, dresses, any sort of like clothing.
Fast fashion is a big issue right now.
It really is. And the garment industry is a huge business in human trafficking, because the example that I usually give is if you go to some of the more popular stores, Walmart, Target, and get, a shirt for $3, $5, the producer is really only earning, maybe 30 cents per shirt. And that's a generous estimate. And so it's, you can buy anything, chocolate, clothes, you can buy cell phones. One thing is mica that they use in the batteries and all of the different aspects of building certain everyday items. You can find
they use it in eyeshadows too, right?
Mm-hmm. So some companies that are leaning more towards fair trade use like a synthetic mica instead. But it really all depends on how the different things are harvested.
Yeah. I do know that fast fashion is a big issue right now. A lot of the markups on items that we purchase nowadays are insane. And you're right that a lot of the people that produce those things don't get paid what they're actually owed for putting in the hours and the work. How do I know if something is fair trade?
So an easy way to figure out if something is or isn't fair trade is that there are different fair trade logos. An easy way to figure out what the logos look like is to Google. There are so many different companies that offer fair trade certification. And something that I actually suggest is to look at those organizations that do the certifications to figure out which ones have the qualifications that you're looking for, because some have more strict restrictions and guidelines than others. But
So they list specifically like what these are the types of things that we're like really hounding down on.
yeah, so one company that's doing the certification might say there can be no child labor at all. Another might say you have to abide by your country's laws. So if it's something made in a different country that allows child labor over the age of, say, 13, then one company wouldn't allow that because that's considered child labor by U.S. standards versus might be allowed because it's looking at the culture and looking at the context.
That makes sense. Sorry.
No, you're good. I was just going to say there's no way to guarantee that something that you're getting that has a fair trade logo is completely untouched by those things, but it's a way that you can at least take those first steps to try and lessen your impact.
I have heard that a great example of this is something can actually be produced in China, but then a piece of it, like a button or a buckle, can be placed in Italy or Spain or France, and then they can automatically put made in Italy or made in France on the item, even though technically the full thing wasn't made in those countries.
Yeah, and that's something that's really misleading with a lot of products. And it's really hard because there's really no way to fully track down each individual stitch to see where the different materials
It's
come
hard to track
from.
the process down and kind of follow it, the lifespan of that product that you're buying.
It is. And so part of what we do at Recover Hope is all of the products that we get, unless we absolutely cannot help it, we try to make sure it's American made. And we tend to use smaller businesses so that we can talk to them directly and see where they get their products from. Certain things, it's kind of impossible. So what we do is we'll call the main company, we'll send them our order number and have them track down, if they can, the particular item that we're looking at.
That's awesome.
And then sometimes they're able to tell us, where it was made. And they usually aren't able to tell the conditions, but there are certain sites out there that'll let you see how a majority of those countries' products are produced.
They're fairly transparent. That's good. So shopping local is really important for you guys.
It really is. We tend to go to a lot of small businesses. We go to a lot of women or veteran-owned businesses because, with Recover Hope, we are an anti-human trafficking organization, but we talk about the issue right here at home. We're not talking about this on an international level. And so we want the community to buy into this issue. And so for them to buy into us, we have to buy into them.
Yep. One of the biggest things that we talk about at the Better Business Bureau is shopping local. Like that's what we want people to do. We want to build a marketplace full of trust, or that starts with trust. Our values are full of ethical values, like starting with respect, integrity, honesty. We want to have a marketplace that starts with trust. And I love that you guys do that. You start with transparency and trust and shopping local, which is what bbb.org is. So there you go. Recover Hope and BBB, two nonprofits. But what if an item that you really need or really want is not available in fair trade? How do you go about obtaining that, or what should you do?
So yeah, kind of like I brushed on earlier, not everything has a fair trade certified option. One of the big reasons for this is that a lot of the big companies that do the fair trade certification are doing great work, but it takes money. And so they ask the company that's being evaluated to pay for the certification. And especially for a lot of smaller businesses, they can't really afford that. And unfortunately, to my knowledge, there are no like scholarships or anything like that they can apply to get that help. But my biggest suggestion is to look into the company itself. Like I just mentioned, Linda and I will call the local organizations, the local businesses, and say, hey, where do you guys get your products from? What kind of, is it made in a factory? Is it made in more of a sweatshop? What is the process for you guys? That's a general rule that I try to say is look into the companies because, they may be supporting something that you don't support.
That's true.
They may put their money towards something that you disagree with. So that
happens every day. Yeah. And that's why people, when we say like, when you decide to shop local, you have some kind of like idea of the company that you're choosing to do business with on a local scale, right? Which is easier. But when you're talking about a company that mass produces on a global level, yeah, that's hard because it's a different type of like product demand between the two. So that's why I feel like shopping local is probably just a better option. But for clothes and shoes and jewelry and stuff like that, it can be harder.
Yeah. And something that we always tell people and that I always tell people in my personal life is that, if you can't buy every single thing fair trade, no one's sitting over your shoulder saying, buy this, buy this, buy this, buy this. But if there are certain things that you need that you can't buy fair trade, the fact that you are, one, even looking, but two, the fact that you're looking means that you likely are buying other fair trade products. And so you're at least taking those initial steps and you're lessening, if not completely separating yourself from any touch of exploitation that you could be indirectly involved in.
And you know what? Secondhand shopping is a great thing too. At least you're giving that item a second life, a second chance, and you're not going and buying it off the rack again.
Yeah. And something really helpful is that there is a common myth with fair trade that fair trade products are immensely more expensive than other products. That is a huge, huge myth that we are trying to dispel. Yes, there are certain products, especially chocolate is the one that everyone talks about. Fair trade chocolate is so expensive. In comparison to the big companies like Hershey's or Nestle or like even Mars, those are kind of companies that they have so much profit margin already that they can afford to lower their prices a little bit to keep you buying.
And chances are it's not even all chocolate.
Yeah. I mean, if you look up the statistics of how much other stuff they can put in your chocolate, I don't even eat that stuff anymore.
I was going to say, not a risk I'm willing to take anymore.
But depending on the products, you're going to find fair trade goods that are the same, if not cheaper from other products. It really just is on you to take the time to look for either those logos or look for companies that you can trust.
There are tons of, Google's there for a reason. I think if you do your research, and chances are you can find it on Amazon too.
Yeah. Just always check where you're getting your stuff from if you can, and then spread the word. That's the biggest thing, is educate yourself on this, but educate the people in your life. If you can just tell one other person about it, you've changed one other person's life.
Truer words were never spoken. Austyn, thank you so much for educating us on fair trade. Again, this is a part 1 to a 2-part series, so make sure you come back and listen in to, we're going to talk about sugar dating next, right?
Absolutely.
Can't wait to learn about that. Everyone that's watching, please make sure on YouTube, BBB Central VA, that you like, share, and subscribe and comment down below. It helps the algorithm. And of course, if you're on Spotify, make sure you do the exact same thing. Share the love and make sure that you participate and learn some new stuff. Thank you.